Hey guys, it's Dave Boyce from Hit the Road with Dave Boyce. We are live at the Old Cosmo Complex in Moncton, New Brunswick, where tonight IHW has their first event of 2016. On that show, now international superstar, Brody, Steele, Peter Smith. Thank you so much for joining the show.
You're welcome.
Of course, I'm going to talk about India, but I just want to go back a little bit, talk a little bit about your career. But first and foremost, I'd like to start by talking about the man himself, Peter Smith. Growing up, what was your childhood like? Were you a wrestling fan? Tell me just a little bit about Peter, the boy growing into wrestling.
I was aware of wrestling. I wasn't a wrestling fan. It used to come on Saturdays, Saturday mornings, Grand Prix. We didn't get WWE then, or NWA or AWA, just Grand Prix. And actually, Grand Prix and International, the two maritime products. So I was aware of it. I watched it. I respected it. My father was a big fan of it. So I was an athlete. So I was interested in playing sports.
You play softball, right?
Yeah, softball, hockey. I played every sport, but softball's the one I excelled at down the road. But when I was a kid, whatever season it was, that's the sport I played from the time the sun came up till I was called in.
And were you gifted size-wise back then as a teenager?
No, I was tall and thin, but I was always a gifted athlete.
Right.
I was always strong, I was fast, but I was really, really thin.
Right.
That's why I started working out.
Yeah, you started in bodybuilding, right? Did some of the shows? Did you do some competitions?
Yeah, I competed in 1995 and 1996 provincially.
Okay, cool. So eventually, wrestling came knocking on your door. How exactly did that happen?
Well, I knew Gary Gallant, a wild man, from the gym. Well, I didn't really know him. I just knew who he was.
Right.
So I asked him, I'd seen other wrestlers around, Edge and Christian being two of them of note. So I asked Gary, what's going on here? Is wrestling happening now? He goes, yeah, because somebody told me he was wrestling too.
Right.
So he gave me Emile Dupree's phone number. I called Emile. That was in 1997. And he told me right off the bat, I'm not interested. He goes, by the way, how big are you? I said, I'm 6'6", 300. Come out right away.
And that changed everything. Because probably back then there weren't a lot of people that size.
It was and wrestling was all about big guys.
Right.
You know, it was your ticket. You know, Gary will tell you he was told immediately he wasn't big enough. And Gary's a pretty big guy. He's not my size, but he's a big guy. But he was nowhere near big enough to be wrestled by the standards of the time.
Okay, so Renee said come right away. So did you train?
No, not Renee, Emile.
Emile, sorry.
Renee was just a kid.
Right. So did you train with them?
Yep. I didn't come right away. That's the thing. Okay. I was at that time. I was training for the Canadian national bodybuilding competition, which I ended up not doing for different reasons. But I was so involved in my training, and I was also doing strongman competitions, which I competed a couple that year. That I kind of put wrestling on the back burner for. I thought, one more year if he's going to run next year, and, you know. So I went and talked to him early 2008 or 1998, and that's when he said, "Okay, let's get started." He put the ring up in his backyard.
Oh, in his backyard.
Yeah.
Okay. And were you the only one being trained at the time, or
yes? No, I was the only one.
The only one.
He was interested in my wife because she was training for her first bodybuilding competition at the time, and she looked. I mean, she still looks fantastic. But he was really interested in
her getting into professional wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did she think about it?
No interest whatsoever. She's very shy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can't be shy in this business.
No.
At some point, you traveled to train with Leo Burke.
Yes, that was in 1999. I met Leo Burke during our tour in 1998 through the Maritimes, and he invited me to go train with him at Bret Hart's house in Calgary. So I left right after Christmas. I went out and I spent 2 or 3 months there.
Okay. And who was all there? Like
Gary Williams was there. He'd been there for a couple of years. A guy from Nova Scotia called Todd McPhee. Eden Pringle, who wrestles as Sin out west, he was there. A big jacked up bodybuilder guy named Johnny Hansen, who's now a national level bodybuilder. He gave up on wrestling. An ex-CFL player named Jeff Thomas, who was 6'8", 325, a really imposing looking guy. That's about it, I guess.
And what was the knowledge you learned from Leo Burke?
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I met Leo Burke. He's fantastic.
Yeah. I went from being the worst wrestler in the world to probably only in the top 50 worst wrestlers in that short time.
So did you do a Landing Grand Prix wrestling tour with them? Or
We just went out and the training camp was you had to be there every day at 10 a.m. until supper time.
Right.
So Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to supper time, we ran drills in the ring.
Right.
Did some mock matches, but mostly just doing things over and over and over and over and over again. Other Leo's watch fly. Once in a while, Brett, but mostly Leo.
Yeah. And what was it like with Bret Hart?
Brett was going
he
through
bad?
He was a dick. Yeah,
I hear that a lot.
Yeah. He sometimes I'm a notoriously early person, so sometimes I get there an hour early, and it's like me and him in his house sitting at the kitchen table having coffee, and him just staring down at the table, making no effort whatsoever. Once in a while, he'd be sort of cool, but not my kind of guy whatsoever. And a lot of people say, you never want to meet your hero. He wasn't my hero. I've never had a hero in wrestling. I couldn't give a fuck about any of it, but to me, he's just a miserable person.
Yeah. Well, because like you said, you weren't really a fan of wrestling, so you wouldn't have a hero to look up to.
If I had a hero, it would have been Leo Burke.
Leo Burke.
He was the world champion when I was a kid.
Right.
So I have to admit, but if I have a hero to this day, it's still Leo Burke. But it's not because he was a world champion, it's because he's a good man.
Right.
He's got respect.
He stayed a good man in this business.
Yeah, he's just a great person.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I was in Vegas last year, you said about being early people. Every morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, I go down and Leo would be the only one sitting there waiting. And it was the best part of my trip, was sitting there for an hour talking to Leo Burke. Man, you could just sit there and pick his brain.
Now, I've heard, unfortunately, he's in a nursing home now as a racer.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Oh, shoot. So can you recall your very first match?
Oh, yeah. My first match was in Woodstock, New Brunswick, against a guy named Butcher Vachon, Roger Terrio, who's from up north here, up in the Bathurst area. Yeah, I remember the whole lead up to it. I remember the day, I drove with Emile and Renee, and I think Jeff, his other son, and they were asking me if I was nervous, and I was like, no.
You were nervous?
No, not at all. But when that bell went, holy shit was I nervous.
Yeah.
I've never felt that kind of nervousness before or since.
What was the house like?
Maybe 400.
Yeah.
It was good. Yeah. Yeah. In those days, we always had good houses.
Totally different.
There was no such thing as wrestling was cool. Mm-hmm. NWO was in their peak. WWE, their Attitude Era was in their peak. Stone Cold Steve Austin, all that. So there was no such thing as a small crowd. You just the worst night you're going to have 300 or 400.
Yeah. No, I know. I remember back then. To this, like now, when people come into the backstage, you're the not the top guy, but people respect you and
the old guy.
You're the legend. You're the
old guy.
the veteran, and they want you for advice. Back then, when you walked in the backstage, who was that guy to you?
Well, it was Leo, of course, if he was there, but Leo wasn't always there. He didn't do the full summer.
Right.
But Chi Cruz was the guy for me.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, I went to Gary for a lot of advice, even though Gary had only been in the ring for a year, in business for a year before me. But he was just such a fast learner, and I knew him.
Right.
So it was easier to go to him. But once I hitched my wagon to Chi Cruz, he was the guy. He knew how to do all. He knew about all the little things, not just in the ring, but outside the ring.
Right.
So another guy, just a man's man.
Yeah. You had a tryout with WCW at one time?
Mm-hmm. That would have been early '99 as well.
How did that come about?
Leo. Yeah, because Leo was under contract by WCW. When we were training with Leo, that was a WCW camp.
Okay.
That was specifically to get us ready for WCW.
Really?
Yeah, that's why it was free.
Wow.
So we were projects of Leo's and we were investments of WCW. So we all went and did our tryouts in Kitchener and in Toronto, the Air Canada Centre in Kitchener-Waterloo, where they played the junior hockey. And my match was god awful because I still wasn't ready, but I was big and I looked good.
Right.
And they were ready to sign all of us. But something happened either with Eric Bischoff or somebody got fired literally that day.
Really?
Temporarily fired. So Leo called J.J. Dillon, who was the interim hirer and firer.
Right.
And he said, "What are we going to do with these guys?" He says, "We don't have enough. We're losing money. We're not hiring anyone."
So you guys are
a matter of 24 hours.
Wow.
It was the difference between $250,000 downside guarantees and flying home with their fucking tails between our legs, ready to cry.
Wow. JJ Dillon's actually from Amherst, Nova Scotia. I just learned
Is that right?
Yeah, I met him like I said, in Vegas last year. And
I didn't know that.
I was talking to him for a minute, and he started telling me he's from Amherst. I was like, well, I'm from Spring Hill, so we sat and talked for a nice guy. Super nice
When
guy.
I was a little boy, like, 7 or 8, 10 years old, and we used to go to wrestling at the Forum, he would come in, he would be a top attraction maybe once a year.
Wow. The wrestling scene in the Maritimes back then too, the RAW shows at the Exhibition Park and at the Forum, they always seemed like sellouts back then.
Yeah.
Why then and why now? What's the difference?
Well, again, wrestling was still very popular. But by the time RAW came along, Rock was the phenomenon. WCW was ready to go, but WWF was so popular with Rock, and Austin was still there, and we had a really good roster as well. Yeah. And we were an edgy product. We wouldn't. I don't think any of the products now are as edgy as that was. We weren't PG. We were swearing. We were being crude, but that was kind of fashionable at the time.
At the time, right?
And it worked. And like I said, we had a really good crew. We brought Kurgan in 2001 that really jumped our business up a lot. And Joe Legend, he'd been gone for a while. He came back, and we just the stars aligned.
Yeah.
But that being said, as crowded as we were, we would have the odd night where we'd have nobody. Right. We'd be in Halifax, and we used to pack in Halifax. I don't know if you went to those shows.
Yeah, I did.
They were busy. But then we would go to Lunenburg a few nights later, and some nights we'd only have 75 people, or Sherbrooke, Nova Scotia,
right.
Wherever. And those were the nights that all of a sudden the losses started to mount. And, it was very expensive to run those shows in Halifax, so you had the big crowd, but not the big profit.
Right. Of course, back then, Cardinal Sinners were born. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about how that came about. You, Gary, Mike Hughes.
It started out as me and Mike Hughes, I believe, and then Gary joined, and then Gary left, and Bobby Roode. Kurgan was part of it at one time. We called ourselves the Cardinal Sinners because when Ross first started, his first incarnation was fall of 1999. A guy from the island named Scott Lance started Real Action Wrestling. And he called us all up and he said, I have a tour for you. And he put together 2 weeks of dates, and we went and we wrestled. And Neil found out that we worked for someone else and said that we had committed to Cardinal Sin. So that's when we named ourselves the Cardinal Sinners.
Boy, that was...
We knew we were finished with him, so we had to make Raw work.
So even back then, promoters were saying if you wrestle for here...
Oh, yeah. And Neil was right. I didn't know it at the time. He was right. It was his territory, man. And we were well aware that when we worked for someone else's, for me, I thought that Raw was going to be more successful than Grand Prix. And I think that it was.
Right.
We buried them in 2001. We went head-to-head with them. We went 120 nights, and they went 9. So, they've run the odd tour since then, but not enough for anyone to make a living. Raw ran for a couple summers at least.
Yeah. What do you say to the young guys now? Because they have this conflict where they want to wrestle as much as they can to get exposure, but people will say, well, don't wrestle for this company because it's a no good company, and only wrestle for this company. Like some of the guys want to wrestle for all these even really shady, just to get the experience. What do you tell the young guys? What path should they follow?
Well, they shouldn't have to follow any path other than whatever they want to do. I mean, it doesn't matter what I think, but what I've always done is I only wrestle for one promoter per market. So it depends on what you define as a market. Right. See, in England, I only work for All-Star Wrestling, right? That's it. And if I want to work for anyone else, he rarely has a night off, but when I'm there and he has a night off and I have an offer, I will talk to him first. And sometimes and I've only done it a few times, but because the other promoters will pay more for a one-off. And sometimes because he buys me a work permit, so what we normally do is the promoter will pay the tax on my wage, and it'll go right to Brian.
Right.
Almost just an obligatory. He has to get something out of it. It's only a few bucks, but in Halifax, I'll only work for one at a time. In PEI, I'll only work for Mike. If somebody else ran here in Moncton, I wouldn't work for him.
Right. Well, I was going to say, would you consider an entire province a territory?
The market is kind of dictated by where the promoter goes,
right,
and where he pays you to go. As far as anywhere outside of Moncton, I don't think IHW has a claim on it yet until they start running regularly in other towns.
Yeah.
And I don't work in St. John or Fredericton now. For for whatever reason, so I don't have, nobody's name on me there.
I find with PEI, people respect Mike Hughes so much that even if, like, say, UCW is going, any other end of the island, people still won't do those shows because, it's Mike Hughes, right?
But they also know that, Mike Hughes has been very, very clear. If you work for anyone else now, you won't be working for me. I'm not telling you not to work for them. I'm just telling you won't be working for me.
Yeah.
And that kind of sounds like but he's trying to protect a product that's very successful.
Very successful.
So, he can't have one of his talents, being used in a way that'll make his product better.
Right. Speaking of Red Rock Wrestling, huge houses, they're so successful. It's probably, I'm guessing, one of the only companies that make money. What's your experience wrestling with Red Rock and Mike Hughes?
I love it. I was there the first show he ever did. And I've only missed a handful of them. I've only missed his shows when I'm overseas.
Right.
So I'd say I've done 80 or 90% of them. Love them.
Yeah.
It's a fun atmosphere. There's no pressure. Everyone knows their job. You're there for a reason. If you're not good, you're not going to be there anyway.
Right.
So he puts faith in people. He tells you, this is what I want from you, and it's up to you to deliver. If you don't deliver, you don't go back.
Right. And it's like a family-oriented company.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the kids come. That means their parents come.
Yeah.
It's a profitable company, right?
Yeah.
We're here with IHW. What's your experience with IHW?
Kind of the same as it is Red Rock now. It didn't used to be the case. I think IHW has learned a lot through the years. When they first came, their product was unwatchable, and then it became crude, vulgar, and then they've realized, we can change things, and they did it slowly because you kind of have to.
Right.
And now they've got a wonderful product. It's great for everybody. Yeah. And my kid, this is the only live entertainment that she enjoys. So she'll be here tonight. And all of her friends, none of them are wrestling fans, but they come, and specifically the parents of her friends, they will come and they'll tell me the next day, I can't believe how much I enjoyed that show.
Right.
It's like they come here with their head down thinking, oh, fuck, I got to sit through a wrestling show. What's my life come to?
Right.
And then despite themselves, they love it.
They have a great time. I'm going to skip Russell Center because I don't talk about them.
Me either.
Good. Recently you did a tour of India. It was groundbreaking, if I could say that. Kayfabe was alive and well in India. Before we get to the actual tour, how did that come about for you to be booked for the tour of India?
Well, Jinder Mahal had contacted me months ago, and I didn't know who Jinder Mahal was, even though I've met him before. Apparently, I don't remember. He was a kid. I met him in Calgary. So he's on my Facebook. His real name is Raj. He sent me a message that I never read or responded to for months. And then finally he sent another message saying what, I remember reading when a Facebook message comes in, you can read the first sentence.
The first sentence.
It said, I was serious what I offered you before. So I thought, offered? So I went back and read the last
magic
message.
word.
I went back and read the message, and I thought, Jesus Christ. And the first thing I thought was, who the fuck is this guy? And so I dug around, and I found out that he was in WWE. I've never watched him. I'd never heard of Jinder Mahal. I still have not seen his work or anything, but...
they didn't use him properly, but he was in a little group that the fans actually clicked to. But anyway,
he's a great guy.
Yeah.
I found that out in India. But I responded to his message, and I said, yeah, I'll go. And I said, just send me the dates, and here's my expectations. And, he had made the money offer. I accepted right away because it was a lot of money. And I specifically asked for some extras, of course, as you do, like meal allowance, and make sure that I never, ever have to share a room with anybody or any of that shit.
Right.
And so he came back and he said, oh, no, he says, don't worry. He says, we're not going to give you a meal allowance, but trust me, you will not open your wallet the whole time, which I did. 2 weeks, never bought a drink, never bought a meal.
So he's a man of his word.
Yeah. And by that time, I'd spoken to a few people, and I had gotten to know Kali, who was the promoter. I had spoken to him a few times, and I gained the trust of these guys. Or they gained my trust, I should say. So I agreed to it, and off I went.
So were they specifically looking for a big man like Kali, and somehow your name came up?
They had originally booked Mason Ryan, Barry Griffiths, who's a very good friend of mine from Wales, monster of a guy. And he got hired by Cirque du Soleil. So he's grabbing people by the foot and flipping them in the air for thousands of dollars a
in
day now.
Vegas.
So he's doing very well. So he had to back out. So, you know, they needed a big guy pronto. And to be fair, there's not a lot of big guys available in wrestling now.
No.
So he contacted me, and I said yes. And not long later, maybe a month later, he called me and he says, Chris Masters just got hurt. He can't go. He says, I need a guy 6'4 plus, 250 plus right away.
You can come from
I said, yes. I said, the only guy I know is Mike Hughes. He says, consider it booked. And I think he knew who Mike Hughes was as well.
Right.
So he was familiar with his body of work. So yeah, next thing you know, off we go.
So you fly to India. First of all, what was that flight like? How long is it from here to India?
Oh God, 26 hours of total travel to get there to the Delhi airport, and then a 6-hour drive to the hotel. I mean, we arrive at the hotel at noon, and the show's at 6:30. Been up for 30 hours.
Right.
And they said, we'll be leaving to the show shortly. So just basically lay down, knock on your door, and off you go to the show.
And I can imagine a guy your size in an airplane for that long just must be
Well,
torture.
Luckily enough, the last leg of the journey from Switzerland into Delhi, it was almost an empty flight, so I had 4 sheets together. Popped up the things, just laid out and got some rest.
Right. So you arrive in India. I believe you must have been told that the media and the press were going to be all over this.
Yeah.
And were you given free, whatever I want to say, I can say it because you said some pretty bad stuff about the country of India.
In Cali's exact words, heel. He doesn't speak much English, so I was a heel. You know, I was given free rein to go full tilt.
Right.
So, you know, right from the start. And not on the way out, but on the way back at the airport, you know, there was a major terror alert at the Delhi airport that day. So we're standing in the customs line thinking this is going to be fucking forever. Because, you know, there's terrorists people everywhere.
Right.
And they're all being checked. And we were getting close to, we weren't going to be late for our flight, but it was going to be close. So there's one particular customs guy that was pissing me off because I knew he was purposely taking his time. So I nudged Mike and I'm pointing at him and saying, that fucker right there. And he catches me pointing at him and he locks eyes with me. And he says, come here. I thought, oh fuck, here we go. And he points at Mike, you too. So we're walking with a tail between our legs to try to leave the country on a terror alert day. The guy goes, you're one of the wrestlers. You're Brody Steele. He had seen the press coverage. He says, you don't have to bother with this stuff. Go through. So I'm trying to hand him my passport. He wouldn't even take it. Wow. So on a terror alert day, they didn't even scan my passport. I could have been anybody.
Well, there's not too many people like you walking around India, I'm sure. I joked earlier that kayfabe was alive and well over there. My God, watching the news coverage, they believed everything you guys are saying and doing.
Yeah. Even the press, you know, especially the press. There was one day that the press walked out on us. Yeah. They walked out on me.
In the hotel? Was it the hotel?
Yeah. It was in the hotel. We had a press conference where we were staying, and I went a little too far in my India hatred, and they turned the mics off and walked out. Jinder had to stand up and kind of get them back.
Right, I just watched this actually.
Then they insisted that he stand up for India. They were more mad at him than they were at me.
Really?
They were like, you're a fucking Indian. Are you going to stand up for us, you prick?
Yeah.
So he had to get in my face, and we had to really kind of change directions so he could save face, and I could keep the heat on me.
And you didn't work him at all on the tour, right? No. You get to the first show. Did you know how many people were going to be there in advance, or were you? So you walk in.
I had numbers in my mind. I was thinking 5,000, maybe 10,000.
Right. So the first night was 25,000 people. The biggest crowd you ever wrestled in front of?
Yeah,
Had to be.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah,
that would be.
You were in the main event?
Yeah.
And that first show was the one where you guys pretty well attacked and Stretcher Kalia, which the media the next day, even in Canada, there was everywhere that you guys front page of the news. It was like their breaking news, like on their CNN. What was that like, and what was it like getting out of the ring?
Well, it was dodgy. They were throwing stuff at us, rocks, and bottles, and handfuls of sand, which really sting when people get up close to you and throw a handful of sand in your back.
You won't complain about silly string here anymore.
No, I'll still complain. I just saw some out in the fucking merch table. I'll be complaining to the promoters more so than anyone else. It's one of those things where you want that kind of attention and hatred and heat, but when you get it, it's like, oh geez,
It's a little too much.
A little too much.
Like, in fact, I believe you guys were driving, you pulled over to use the washroom, and you were surrounded.
Yeah.
Like, these people were just following you?
Yeah,
or?
but and these people, they had no idea who we were. I mean, you probably saw video footage that Mike Hughes captured and stuff. We just got out, actually, we were trying to go to a farm. So because everyone was sick. So we saw a pharmacy on the side of the road, pulled the bus over, we all got out, and we should have sent one person, somebody that can blend in with an Indian guy.
Like the driver or something.
Yeah. So we all walked over, and we were surrounded by thousands of people trying to take pictures and selfies, and it wasn't violent whatsoever. Okay. But they start getting angry when you tell them no. I can't take a picture with one of you and then say no to 900.
Plus, you probably wouldn't stay in character, like because they seen you on the breaking news, and now you're a nice guy taking your pictures. So
a little bit of that.
Yeah. So the second show was even more people.
65 to 70,000 the second show. A lot of it due, I think, to the publicity we got after
from the
Stretcher
angle.
Kelly. Kelly did spend 8 hours in the emergency room that night, so it was warranted. I mean, his injuries were real.
Was it in the same venue? Was it like a stadium?
No. It was a different. They were all cricket stadiums.
Okay.
So it was a different cricket stadium. I wish I could explain geographically where they were, but the traffic's so bad, you don't really know how far you've gone.
Right.
I know it was like a 13-hour journey, so
wow.
It might have only been 10 miles.
Yeah, I suppose. So you get to that venue. Did you hear in advance how many people were in attendance? We
got there way early, and there was already thousands of people lined up. So we knew it was going to be big. And somebody told me that the stadium held 40,000. But there was way more than 40 in there.
Wow.
I mean, it held comfortably for a cricket match. That's what cricket, they use the floor.
Right.
So, I mean, you can ram another 25,000 people easily on
Which
there.
they did, apparently.
Which they did. And, there's people in the upper decks. I don't know how they weren't falling out of the stadium. It was like a Roman Colosseum type setup.
What was the vibe like in the ring? Like I know, like even here at the Cosmo, when the people are above you, you feel it.
Yeah.
And that's only 300 people.
Yeah.
What's 70,000 people surrounding a ring feel like?
It's real. And they don't react, because they're not really wrestling fans. They're just Cali fans, and they really believe in it. So to go do my usual cocky persona gets a little bit of reaction. But to be aggressive towards them, what I would do, when I first walked in the ring, I just did my thing, and then flexed my muscles and all that. And there was a mild reaction, but I knew I'm not happy with that.
Right.
And then I ducked my head between the top and middle rope, and I raised my fist up. And they fucking went nuts. They started coming towards the ring. And then me and Mike Knox and Apollo, who were in my corner for all the matches, then we realized this is how to get this
right.
crowd.
And did they have like a barricade?
Oh yeah.
Because I seen some video. It looked like the fans were like coming right up, and you guys were stuck in the ring. Like you needed security to help get you guys out.
But those weren't fans. Those were wrestling students.
Oh, okay.
The fans were behind the barrier trying to get out.
Okay.
And the cops were beating them back with sticks.
Right.
But those wrestling students, they're not smartened up wrestling students. They were there to fight us.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I mentioned security outside of the wrestling shows. You guys needed security to get around.
Yeah.
Guns. I see some pictures of guys with guns. What was that like? So if you get up in the morning, you had a guard waiting to escort you to the car?
Well, when you come into the lobby of the hotel, there'd be 4 or 5 or 6 Sikh guys with machine guns. And they would, if anyone can speak English, there's one of them that's actually moving to Canada pretty soon. He spoke perfect English, and he would say, if there's anywhere you want to go, we want to go with you.
Right.
But I had a warning before. I had a warning on the first day, don't go anywhere. Me specifically, don't go anywhere. Don't trust the Sikh guards. Don't go anywhere with them. Just stay in the... And so there was a rumor that the Sikh guards were kind of in cahoots with the fans that hate me, and there was a rumor that they were going to try to lure me out of the hotel and get my head kicked in.
Really?
Yeah, so that was a little bit, I was more scared of them at first, and then I realized after a day or two that that rumor was unfounded because they were getting selfish with me and stuff. They were good guys.
Yeah.
So then I trusted them. And then when I wanted to do a little bit of shopping, there was a place about 2 blocks away that I slipped off to a couple times, and they would come with me, and it was safe.
Yeah.
A lot of hassle, people wanting to come over, and mostly just selfish.
Right.
It's a hassle.
Well, back like over there, I'm sure they've never seen a man that big. So
No.
you're in traction.
And the hair,
Yeah.
it's just, I'm different from.
And you're on the news, so
Yeah.
you're 70,000. Kali come back. That was the comeback from.
Yeah.
The third show, I believe, was
That was
smaller.
Yeah, that was in Cali. See, the first 2 shows were promoted by an entertainment company
Okay.
that invested big money.
Production-wise,
Yeah,
too.
yeah. And the third show, Cali promoted himself. So we still hit 10,000.
Yeah.
So, nothing to sneeze about, but probably a way lower expense.
Yeah.
And, that was his hometown. We actually expected to do better than that night, but it was pouring down rain. And very few advance tickets. I mean, believe it or not, for a $65,000 gate, you would think that most of them would be advance tickets, but they're all walk-on.
Really?
In the night of the 65,000 people, they had to delay the show probably 2-3 hours because people
Just so many walk-ons.
thousands of people lined up to get in.
Really?
But it's a late country. It's one of those countries where they don't expect things to start on time, so nobody cares.
Right.
They had bands playing, everyone's having a good time.
Yeah.
So.
Was the outline of the wrestling show kind of like here, like some, like the custom 3 matches, intermission 2 matches, or was it kind of
There's
different?
more matches. There's 9 matches.
There's 9.
But with an intermission.
Yeah. 2.5 hours?
I don't know because they're still late getting started. I really don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to say probably longer,
Yeah.
probably 3.5 hours.
And you were always in the main event?
Yeah.
Always. So, man, in 3 days you wrestled, it's safe to say, in front of 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Biggest tour ever?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Biggest money maker?
Biggest money I've ever made,
Yeah.
That's why I'm so eager to go back.
So you are going to go back?
Yeah, I'm going to go back in May and then probably twice in the fall.
Really? Good. Coming back, what was it like? Like jet lag? Like you must just be...
I'm still sick. I get sick right away. Actually, I was sick when I got there. I had a flu when I got there that I caught here. Then we all caught some kind of crazy stomach bug or virus or something, and we all lost a ton of weight, the hard way, puking, running for toilets, and traveling, not eating, and it was really rough. And then I'm back now, and I caught a cold as soon as I got back, and now I don't really feel any symptoms. I just feel I need more rest.
Right. So, what's the summer look like for you, other than going back there? You're going to do some tours, some dates around here?
Yeah, I'm going to do, unfortunately I've had to cancel 2 IHW shows, the Frank Parker, the Memorial Show in Truro, because I'll be in India, and a show here in Moncton. But I'm going to do all the other IHW dates. I'm going to do all of the Red Rock wrestling dates. Mike had to actually cancel the Red Rock date because he's going back to India with me as well in May.
So he's going back with you?
Yeah.
He enjoyed it as much as you?
Yeah. I think he enjoyed it more than me. He wasn't as sick as me. And plus, he had an easy tour. I wasn't only wrestling the main event. I was doing 3 or 4 run-ins through the night.
Right.
And just I was worn out.
Especially at 70,000, when the ring must have been a good chunk
the
away.
ramp. It's like walking on. It's like walking on a treadmill, a full incline for 10 minutes. But he probably had more fun than me. So.
Over there, were all the wrestlers like bigger than life wrestlers, or did they have some high flyer guys? And
They did, but they got no reaction. And they were big name guys. I don't know their names, but because I don't watch WWE. But he had a couple guys. I say smaller. They were still big compared to local guys.
Yes.
Brian Cage. He's probably only 5'9", 5'10", but he looks like a pro bodybuilder. But his flips and flops meant nothing. The people didn't give a shit. There's another guy named Justin Gabriel from South Africa. Fantastic guy, but his work didn't really mean anything.
Yeah, I think it's TJ Black, right?
That's it. Yeah. PJ.
Yeah, PJ Black. Sorry.
I'd never heard of either one of them before, to be honest with you, but nice guys.
Yeah.
That what they were doing, people weren't buying.
They just wanted to see
It didn't look like a fight. But you know what? Mike Hughes was in matches that really shouldn't have meant much. He was in a couple tag matches against local guys that nobody knew, but he knows how to be heel, and he got a massive reaction just by being a heel. He wasn't. Mike Hughes doesn't do flips. He could. I mean, there's nothing he can't do. He doesn't need to.
You don't need to.
He's such a good character and a good worker and an aggressive heel.
Right.
That, you know, I thought that he had the best matches, even though he wasn't against good opponents.
So they're bringing him back as well.
Well, no, it is. I say that he was on with Jinder one night, which was a great match. Yeah, he's going awesome.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for joining me. I just wanted to have a few minutes with you to talk about your trip to India. It just seemed like it was like a groundbreaking tour, and I was even messaging you. I was like, I'm so happy for you guys. Like watching like that footage. And it's nice to see wrestling fans believe again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know, it's not my first time out of the country.
I know.
Been to 30 countries.
I know, but back, you know what? I've never seen footage like that before.
Yeah.
So like,
no,
see
no,
it.
I was in awe of what took place there.
And you wrestle in front of 70,000 people.
Yeah.
That must have been just like a highlight career.
Yeah, I guess it would be
For a career like yours, with so many highlights.
Yeah, I guess that would be a moment for sure.
Well, Pete, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys, that's Hit the Road, Dave Boyce. We'll see you next time.
Holy crap.
So we're doing an interview. I can edit it. Editing.
We're doing an interview.
Oh, don't worry.
Yeah, no.
We're doing a live interview.
We're doing an interview.
Okay.
Okay, so go over there.
Okay.
Oh, you kicked my camera and everything.
I'm the most famous guy in the world, you know?
Okay, we're doing.
Okay, we'll talk to you in a minute. Justin,
guys, can you
come help this gentleman. Well, he's just kind of in awe of David Boyce. Just take him over there. Thanks. All right. The magic of Italy. Okay.